Welcome to the Haverhill Journal Live for Monday, April 5th, 2021. I'm Lindsay Paris, here with you tonight from the HC Media Studio. Tonight, Haverhill kindergarten and first grade students began their return to 5-day in-person learning, with more grades returning in the days to come. Superintendent of Schools Margaret Marotta will be joining us later to discuss reopening plans and answer some parent questions. Then we'll be visiting the UMass Lowell Innovation Hub, located at Harbor Place here in Haverhill, to learn about how they've continued to serve entrepreneurs and small businesses during the pandemic. But first off, Mayor Jim Fiorentini is joining us for his latest update. Mayor Fiorentini, thanks for being here.
Well, the big update today, and you're going to hear more from the superintendent of schools, is the kids are starting to come back. And I'm so thrilled with that. I've been a big advocate of in-person learning, and we have left a lot of kids behind. You know, there's a federal government had a program years ago, No Child Left Behind. We left every child behind, and this has been devastating to some of our children. So it's just wonderful to see it being reversed and the kids starting to come back. Today, K through 1 was back in person, and I'm happy to say all of the kids who had been hybrid are now back in K through 1, and the remote learning academy kids, the kids that were fully remote, had the option of coming back, and half of the kids who could have stayed on remote learning decided to come back for in-person learning. I went by the Walnut Square School just a few minutes ago. I talked to some of the kids. They are absolutely thrilled. I talked to a nice young man in the first grade, and he had been on Remote Learning Academy. He said, "Oh, I'm so excited to be back." And this is what the kids need. They need to be in the classroom. They need to be with our teachers. Our teachers do an absolutely wonderful job, and the kids need to be with them. So I'm thrilled to see this happen. On Thursday, all of K through 5 goes back, and little by little over the next couple of weeks, we will have every child back for in-person learning in Haverhill, and we are thrilled. In other news, we're setting up a new testing center in Haverhill. It's going to be down on the corner of Lock Street and Winter Street, where we used to have it. We'll have a further announcement about that, but we're thrilled. It'll be free. Anybody nervous that they might have COVID-19, just drive into the testing center. We'll take care of you, and watch my sites for City of Haverhill Mayor's Office official for further announcements on that. And we're getting out the vaccine. We have 2 big spots in Haverhill, the City of Haverhill Health Department site, where we meet at the Citizen Center, and also the old Rite Aid site run by Greater Lawrence Family Health. And together we're getting 3,000 or 4,000 people vaccinated every week. So we're on the right track. We're going to get there. I ask everybody, continue to be cautious. This really feels like it's over, but it isn't over. We're all worried about a 3rd or 4th spike after Easter. Please be cautious, and we'll get there. Thank you very much, Lindsay. It's great to talk to you again.
Mayor Fiorentini, thanks so much for coming on the show tonight.
My pleasure. Honored to be here. Thanks, Lindsay. Bye-bye now.
Stay up to date with the mayor by subscribing to his blog at jimfiorentini.wordpress.com or by reading his updates on the Haverhill News page on Facebook. Today is the day many parents and students have been waiting for as the Haverhill Public Schools begin phasing in full-time, 5-day in-person instruction at school buildings for the first time in over a year. Here with us tonight is Superintendent Margaret Marotta to discuss reopening plans and answer some of the most pressing questions that parents and students have. Dr. Marotta, thanks so much for taking the time to join us.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited about the return to school, as I know many of our families are.
Definitely. And today, Haverhill's youngest students, the kindergartners and first graders, have returned to school. So I know the return to school plan has been in the works for some time. So how is the department prepared for that?
I think we have sort of worked out every scenario we can. And in many ways, I think we're ready. I think there's always the unknown. Things looked great this morning. I was in several classrooms, saw lots of really happy kindergartners and first graders, some coming to school for the first time. But things went very smoothly this morning. Transportation is always our nemesis. But I think even that was okay this morning.
That's great to hear. I'm so glad. I know the students are thrilled to be back in the classroom, I'm sure.
Yeah, they were cute. I talked to one little boy, and he said he was this frightened to be back, but he was this excited. So he was pretty cute. They were a lot of fun.
Oh, that's so much fun. Now, at the high school, it's working a little differently. In general, the youngest students are going back first, but the high school 12th graders are going back. So can you tell us a little about that?
We wanted to get the seniors back in. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. You know, everybody remembers their senior year and all the excitement of the senior year, and our kids have missed out on so much. So just to get them back a little bit sooner, and actually our seniors will be graduating the first week in June, so it's pretty short experience for them.
Right, exactly. That's a great rationale, and I'm sure the seniors are really happy to get back. Are they going to be doing a prom this year and a graduation?
So we'll definitely be doing a graduation, and we're talking about having some form of a prom. It won't be a traditional form of prom, but we would like to give the kids an opportunity to, you know, kind of dress up and be together and have that that experience. It'll definitely be a senior week.
That's excellent. Great to hear. And parents, of course, also, if they're not comfortable with returning their children in person, have the option to stay fully remote. So how is the Remote Learning Academy going to change? What percentage of students are going back fully remote?
So about 20, maybe a little less than 20% of our families are choosing to remain fully remote. And we had about 40% of our families previously fully remote. So the academy has been halved in size. So obviously that's caused some issues with staffing and needing to move things around, which I understand is very frustrating for everyone involved. But, you know, if the kids leave the program, we need to shift the teachers to be with the kids. So.
Right, absolutely. And will they remain in fully remote classes, or will they be engaging with the in-person students as well?
You know, we're going to keep the Remote Learning Academy separate. So that will continue to be completely remote. Really the only sort of hybrid in the K-8 ages will be if a student's quarantined. And then we'll offer some live streaming and some supports for parents at home with their students.
Excellent. Now, two big questions parents have and students, lunch and transportation. So we'll start with lunch. How is the way lunch is served? Is that going to be different? Are they going to be eating in the classroom or in the cafeteria?
So I think it varies school to school where kids are actually eating, right? Because our kids need to be 6 feet apart with their masks off. We know that. So depending on the size of the cafeteria, some schools have pushed into the gym. Some have used adjoining classrooms. Just sort of a different plan in every school. Essentially, we have tents. We have yoga mats for each student if they want to go outside under the tent and sprawl out on their yoga mat and eat. That's fine
that's
too.
Really nice. That's so comfortable. And now that the weather is improved, you have a lot more options as far as outdoors.
Yes. The weather is helping us now, thankfully.
And of course, transportation, again, like you mentioned before, social distancing on buses, challenging, obviously. So how's it going to return with the, work with the return to full in-person and more students using transportation? Yeah,
so buses have returned to much greater capacity, 2 students to a bench on the bus at this point with windows open. So that's a lot more students than there were, but a lot fewer students than there used to be. So clearly we're encouraging parents who can to drive their students to save spaces on the bus for those kids that really need to be there. Masks on all the time. It's, the buses, it's not a small company. We're dealing with North Reading Transportation is a statewide transportation company. So, there's always issues in dealing with big franchises like that. But we're doing the very best we can. If people have concerns, if they can notify their school or the transportation department in the first couple of days, the lines do get backed up. So, you may be on hold. If you could drive for a couple of days, you might be doing yourself a favor while we work the kinks out. But we're working on it.
Definitely. I know I'm driving because sometimes it's just a little bit easier that way,
Absolutely.
Definitely. So, of course, we're all feeling a lot of hope right now. Vaccination rates are rising, caseloads are going down. But as we all know, things can change pretty quickly in this pandemic. So if there were a circumstance where cases began to rise again, do you have kind of a contingency plan in place for if that were to happen?
Yeah, we've kept all our protocols in place for the hybrid model should we have to go back. I'm hopeful that we won't, but clearly if rates start to rise in our schools to a concerning point, then that's a conversation that we'll have to have, with the community and with school committee and actually with the Department of Education at this point if we were to go backwards. So.
Right, and I understand most of the guidelines you're operating are under DESE guidelines for the state of Massachusetts.
That's correct.
Right. Well, we're all hopeful, I think.
Absolutely.
And, things seem to be doing much better, so we're going to get there. But our last question regarding Chromebook usage in the classroom. So, knowing some students, I know they don't love going to school, but having to work on a Chromebook actually at school. So now that they're returning to 5-day in-person, are they going to be able to get away from the screens a little bit?
I think a little bit away from the screens. We all have Zoom fatigue.
Exactly.
We've all had it. Computers were and will continue to be a part of the classroom. But I think we're going to sort of fall back to more pre-pandemic levels of computer usage than constant computers.
Oh, that's fabulous. I'm sure many parents and students are happy to hear that.
We all need a break and a little human interaction. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Superintendent, thank you so much for coming on the show. We know how busy you are.
Yeah, thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
The pandemic has fundamentally changed the workplace for most of us, but small businesses and entrepreneurs have faced unique challenges of their own. The UMass Lowell Innovation Hub opened its Haverhill location at Harbor Place in 2017 to support entrepreneurship and provide flexible co-working space. I visited the iHub to learn more about how they have pivoted to continue serving the small business community during COVID-19.
The UMass Lowell Innovation Hub is a business incubator and co-working space here at Harbor Place in Haverhill. It's part of UMass Lowell Satellite Campus. We support early stage startup companies and entrepreneurs and small businesses with programming, space, events, access to our prototyping lab, and everything they need to really run and grow their business right here in Haverhill.
So the university, over the last 6 years, has invested in these spaces, and they are targeted at not only supporting companies coming off campus, but also companies in the broader region. So the value for entrepreneurs here is to get them access to many things that they don't have at home, whether it be 3D printing, CNC milling equipment, instrumentation to prototype and test their products. We have that here. As opposed to spending tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, they get it at pennies on the dollar.
I decided to come to the iHub because I had been working from home for about 1.5 years before the pandemic hit and kind of reached my limit of being able to work in that space. And I'm the only staff member for Creative Haverhill, so just feeling that need for community and connection and also having a workspace outside of my home. To be able to have an office space and access to community and events and programs, virtually or in person, and printers and meeting spaces. It's been really great.
We moved our business here in 2018, primarily because I got tired of working in my basement, and we need to hire people. And unfortunately, when you have an interview in a basement, it sets a weird vibe. So we needed to have some professional-looking space. We're a professional organization. I've been in business now since 2009. It's been incredibly beneficial to us in that we have the space that we need. We can visit with our clients, and prior to COVID, obviously. They can come to us. It looks professional. But the biggest thing for us and what's kept us here is the internet. We can get gigabit speed internet for about half of our rent, basically. It would be the equivalent.
Right before the pandemic hit, we were at having our best quarter ever. We had the most number of members here. We had events constantly. We had meetings and corporate events and trainings and workshops. And then all of a sudden we had to stop, just like everybody else. And we had to sort of figure out how we could continue to move forward in a space that was designed for people to come together when we couldn't be together. The thing that was most important to us was we were able to stay open. We've continued with a lot of virtual programming, and that's been great because we can combine it with our resources in Lowell, so members from both sites can participate. And then we've been able to attract speakers from all over. We just did a workshop this week on sensor technology, and we had a speaker from Arizona on, somebody else from California, and some of our UMass Lowell colleagues. In terms of our space, we did make all the adjustments that you've seen in other businesses. Mask wearing, one-way aisles. We've spaced out people's desks and workspaces. We've taken pride in making sure that everybody feels safe to be here in this workspace.
We figured out how to meander around the office to minimize the number of contacts, minimize the number of touch points, and it's been extremely safe since then. It's very quiet here. Having my own space with a closed door has been phenomenal. And then the other big thing is just the internet connection here screams. It's so fast. So every meeting usually the comment is, how come your video is so clean? How come it's so clear? And that has turned out to be a really big deal.
The pandemic has changed how people work and how people think about what their work life looks like. But what we've seen and from talking to people is there is still that need to have a place to go, have an office. There's a huge opportunity, I think, for us at the iHub, where a lot of companies that had huge office spaces in Boston have maybe decided to scale back how they use that space. The iHub could help fill that gap because we could provide space for a small team that maybe is based in the Merrimack Valley.
The one thing that this pandemic has convinced people is that there are many other ways for them to work other than tethered to their office. What we provide here is another option. That other space, which is a space beyond their traditional office where they're not at home. And for the ones who want that all office space, we can do that as well.
Right now, we're going to continue with our virtual programming. We are doing community co-working days again, which is when we open the iHub up for anybody to sort of try us out for the day. We are going to allow some in-person activities during that, obviously very limited and following all of our COVID guidelines as well. We're going to have a virtual networking lunch each month starting this month in March. People have sort of missed that, they miss going to events and meeting people and interacting in person. So I do think that there'll be some kind of pent-up demand for coming back to a safe office space and collaborating with people in person again. And that's something that we think that we can help provide.
So when we talk about innovation, entrepreneurship, creating new ventures, in many cases, you don't know where that next idea, that next opportunity, that next customer is going to come from. So one of our jobs here is to create that orchestrated serendipity, bringing people together, connecting them. So they see that new idea, they see that new opportunity, they see that new customer, that new partner, that new investor. We've seen that happen time and time again in the 3 years we've been here, and we continue to see that as a key value of what we do here at the Innovation Hub.
The UMass iHub has a host of events coming up, including community co-working days, their Lunch and Learn speaker series, and more. Check out their calendar of events at uml.edu/innovation-hub to register. And that's our show for Monday, April 5th. Thanks so much for joining us. Watch the Haverhill Journal live again at 5:30 and 9:30 p.m. every weekday night on Channel 22. And as always, keep watching HC Media for up-to-date information, series programs, public service announcements, and more. I'm Lindsay Paris. Good night.